Okay, and we are live. ¿Qué tal, amigos? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with another live update. Thursday evening, 7:35 p.m. here in Spain. And we'll go through some of the news and some of the comments that have caught my attention on the channel in recent times and have a bit of a chat about those. First piece of news today, the government again arguing with its coalition, well, the PSOE party arguing with its coalition partner Podemos because of a new law that has been interpreted differently by judges to what the government wanted. The government coalition tries to avoid a new confrontation with the only yes is yes law. The Asian tour is proving as turbulent for Pedro Sanchez in domestic affairs as his recent trip to Latin America was for Alberto Núñez Feijóo, if not more so. The president of the government has not fared well in recent days. The fronts inside and outside the government coalition are piling up for Sanchez, who was already attending the G20 summit in Indonesia and the official visit to South Korea in the midst of a political storm with the opposition over the reform of the crime of sedition. The president's ambiguity on the possible modification of embezzlement in the penal code without clarifying whether it would benefit those convicted of corruption who have not personally enriched themselves has opened another spigot or spigot that the PSOE itself does not know how to interpret. The reduction of sentences for sexual offenders of minors in the application of the law to guarantee sexual freedom, or the only yes is yes law, in force since October the 7th, has caught the government off guard in a highly sensitive issue that affects children, as is one of the major laws of the ministries run by Podemos. And we can see here that the law, the stricter rape law, to be reviewed after being used to reduce some jail sentences. So this is where the problem is. Spain is to review a new law to give victims of sexual offences more protection after a series of court rulings led to prison sentences being reduced for offenders because of a loophole in the legislation. The law came into force last month, 6 years after what became known as the Wolfpack case, in which 5 men gang-raped an 18-year-old woman in the Pamplona bull running festival, but were at first handed a lesser sentence for the crime of sexual abuse. This case prompted demonstrations across Spain and led the government to change the criminal law on sexual offences, known as the Yes Means Yes law. The new legislation qualifies any non-consensual sex as rape, bringing Spain into line with 11 other European countries, including Britain, Sweden, and Portugal. However, lawyers for convicted sex offenders used the loophole in the law, which allowed for a general reduction of jail sentences when new criminal legislation comes into force in Spain. So this new law making the headlines at the moment because basically the government got it wrong, and that loophole which is being exploited by lawyers around the country, and sex offenders are getting their sentences reduced. And this has led to a problem between the justice system and the Podemos party. The Minister for Equality, the Podemos Minister Irene Montero, yesterday called judges fascists in robes, also accused them of being hating women, and a lot of other adjectives that she threw at them yesterday. Various people on both sides of politics have asked her to resign because of those words, and obviously they stuffed up the law when they put it through. Apparently judges warned of this problem, didn't listen to it because they were keen to get their star policy through the parliament, and as we can see, this is what's going on here now. So as I said, some sex offenders who had been sentenced to 5 or 6 years jail have had their sentences reduced, and the Podemos side of the government is not happy about this. But it just goes to show that when you run these things through the law without checking all of the boxes and crossing the T's and dotting the I's, this is what can happen, and we're seeing it firsthand here in Spain currently. Now let's have a look at another piece of news. This one here. Bank movements, a suspicious analysis, and the bar camera. This is how the croquette crime, el crimen de la croqueta, was solved A woman tried to poison her ex-husband with a croquette. She laced the food with psychotropic drugs to sedate him. It all started like this. Maria Belén and Juan Carlos had been separating for a month. The couple met in a bar in Zaragoza to talk about the agreement. They sat down, ordered some tapas, and when the man got up to go to the bar, she took the opportunity to poison him. Agents of the National Police claim that the woman put a drug in the croquette. He claims that he noticed a strange taste but did not give it any importance. After their meeting, Maria Belén accompanied him home. After some time, he began to feel unwell, and he does not remember anything until the following day, as explained by an agent of the National Police. To Juan Carlos's astonishment, he soon discovered that he has 27,000 euros less in the bank, with the money transferred to 4 of his ex-wife's accounts. So there we go, the croquette crime, El Crimen de la Croqueta, which has been making headlines here as well at the moment. And police able to solve the crime, thankfully, because they had a camera in the bar and they saw the woman tampering with the croquette when the man got up to go to the toilet or to order something at the bar, something like that. But premeditated, obviously. She went into the bar thinking that she was going to do this and take all of that money out of his bank account, 27,000 euros. So again, be careful when you get divorced, what your partner might be thinking. And that's what old Juan Carlos here found out firsthand when he got a poisoned croquette. And I like croquetas. It's one of my favorite things here in this country, especially if you get a good croqueta. A lot of bars and restaurants don't do them very well. They tend to fry them in bad oil and they're a little bit soggy, not very tasty. But if you get a good croqueta de jamón, or a good cod croqueta de bacalao, very, very tasty indeed. And quite often you'll get a croqueta as a tapa here in Spain. They'll put down a couple of croquetas on the plate when you order a drink. So tasty Spanish food. Not sure if it originated in Spain, the croqueta, but very, very popular here nonetheless. Now, another piece of news. Europe's cheapest and most attractive city is in Spain. The German booking platform Omio has compiled a list of the most interesting European cities to travel to without hurting your wallet more than necessary. With inflation skyrocketing and prices skyrocketing, it is interesting to identify cheap holiday destinations, and Spain has been crowned the king of affordable cities with 4 capitals in the top 10 of the list. At the top of the list is Granada, Europe's leading city in terms of value for money. The authors of the study rated its offer of 112 free activities and access to 60 other iconic sites at affordable prices. Entry to the Alhambra, for example, costs between 5 and 14 euros, a bargain compared to the prices of similar tourist attractions in major European capitals. More examples: a tour with the city's tourist bus costs 9 euros, and the average price for beer in any of the city's 86 bars and clubs is 2.50 euros. So there we go. Granada, Europe's cheapest and most attractive city to visit at the moment, with skyrocketing prices and skyrocketing inflation. And European inflation figures have been published, over 10%, and UK inflation figures also published around 11%, I believe. So inflation rocketing and skyrocketing, and people looking for cheap holidays. Granada, number 1 on the list, and 4 other cities, which I think are also in Andalusia. Cordoba, I think, was mentioned, maybe Malaga as well, maybe Cádiz. So if you're looking for a cheap holiday, not necessarily going to the coastal areas, head to a city like Granada, where you'll get a beer for only 2.50, which is pretty cheap. Now, the word of the day, saludable, a very important word nowadays. Healthy. Hay que intentar llevar una vida saludable. Good advice. Try to lead a healthy life. And that's what I try to do, basically, to try to be as saludable, as healthy as I can be, not eating too much of any one thing, try not to drink too much alcohol, too many beers, too many glasses of wine. Very easy to get caught in that trap here in Spain with the price of alcohol, as we saw in the Canaries, 5 bottles for a bottle of whiskey. Not sure what the quality of the whiskey would be, but still very, very cheap, and difficult to control for a lot of people alcohol intake, especially with those cheap prices. And when it comes to diet as well, trying to keep off the fatty foods, trying to eat a healthy diet, una dieta saludable. So the word of the day here, saludable, healthy. First comment from Manj Mau. I think it is obvious why Spain fails at English compared to other countries. Spanish people tend to have a lot of pride over their language and are very stubborn and headstrong about accepting a new one. One such example is their persistence to have any form of media dubbed in Spanish, which in my opinion is horrible considering there are only 12 people that do all the voices for every instance, making Arnold or Stallone sound just like everybody else. Blasphemy, says Manj Mao. Yeah, Spanish dubbing, a topic for another day, but it is true that a lot of the actors repeat the voices. So, for example, Kevin Costner, I remember back in the day, Kevin Costner and Bruce Willis was the same actor. So you would be in another room listening to the television and you would say, there's a Bruce Willis film on, and you'd go in and it was, Kevin Costner, or the same guy did John Wayne and Clint Eastwood or something, or Clint Eastwood and another couple of actors. So that's always been one of the complaints when it comes to dubbing. But the industry is very, very strong, and it was set up back in the day by the Franco government, I believe, as a way of controlling what was said in those movies. So, for example, if there was something that the regime back in the day didn't like, they would just put something else in and nobody was any wiser. And I think that industry grew and grew and grew, and we've got to the stage now where it's even gone into the other language parts of Spain. So, for example, in Catalonia, there's a big dubbing industry there. In the Basque Country as well, Galicia as well, where they have different languages, not only Castellano Spanish. They are, a lot of actors are making a living dubbing into those languages also. But now with the Netflixes and the Movistar TV and all of the digital services, there are translations, or you can change the language in a lot of these programs nowadays. So we are improving in that sense. But for many years, it was impossible to watch a movie in anything but Spanish here, because everything was dubbed, which is the opposite in Portugal. In Portugal, they only seem to dub children's programs. The rest of the foreign content is normally in the original language. So, you'll be quite often sitting in a coffee shop in Portugal having a coffee, watching the television with no sound, and people are just reading the Portuguese subtitles. But here in Spain, of course, that is not the case. Now, another comment. Let's have a look. Always learning. I've been trying to get my NEI number for 3 months. Still can't get an appointment. Shite! If I can't even get past this hurdle, then everything more complex will be hell. I'm seriously thinking of elsewhere. Yeah, not sure what the problem is with the number. So you're having trouble getting the number or the TIE card? Not sure, because I thought the number was a lot easier to get, but according to Always Learning, that is not the case. Now, if anybody else is in a similar situation having trouble getting that NIE number, please let us know in the chat section and we'll try and work out what the problem is. But I haven't gone through this process for a long, long time. I did it all when I first came more than 20 years ago, so I'm not really up to speed on what the processes are like nowadays, but I always thought that it was easier to get the number, and then it was another thing to get the card. So, and I thought it was basically automatic when you applied for residency from a European country that you would get that number, because it's essential to be able to open a bank account and things like that, and to get a lot of things done, you need to have that NIE number. The foreigner's number. But as I said, if anybody else is having problems similar to Always Learning here, please let them know that they're not alone in that quest to get the number. Once you do get the number, everything else should be easier. Hopefully you won't come up against too many more bureaucratic walls, but there could be a bit of a backlog. I've heard that in Portugal there's a backlog getting numbers. Here in Spain there could be a backlog as well. So, as I said, if anybody else is in the same situation, let us know in the chat section. Now let's have a look at another comment. This one here. Dark Lord, Pedro Sanchez has lost his mind thinking digital nomads will benefit Spain. We Mexicans have a lot of them in our capital, only raising the cost of living and spreading inflation. all these people do is take advantage of the low cost of living and making it worse for others. Also, who cares about English skills? Everyone should stop making it like English is mandatory and you are considered uneducated if you don't know it. Yeah, good point. With the digital nomad visa that's going to be passed through the Senate shortly, and hopefully will be ready for, or a lot of people are hoping, of course, that it will be ready early January, and people looking to take advantage of that digital nomad visa. The exact details are not known, but some rough details, I think, have been published. We talked about it yesterday. But Dark Lord saying there that digital nomads perhaps are not a good idea. They increase rents. They increase the cost of living, increase inflation, according to Dark Lord. So is there any truth in that? I don't know. I don't really have anything to do with digital nomads, to be honest. I don't go into the cafes where they frequent. I'm not sure how many are living in Madrid doing the digital nomad thing, or Barcelona. I've heard there are quite a few. Canary Islands, I've heard, is also popular, but I'm sure that the country will be inundated with digital nomads once that law is passed, which is what's happening in Portugal currently because they've already got that law up and running. But could it be detrimental to the local population, people coming in earning higher salaries? Because I think one of the stipulations is going to be that people earn a minimum of 2,000 euros a month, which is double the minimum salary here in Spain. So if you've got all of these people coming in with, 2, 3, 4, 5,000 euro salaries, it could do what Dark Lord suggests there, increase the cost of living for locals, and then people will get upset, and there might be changes to the law, but we'll see what happens. But I'm sure that politicians have thought this through well before they introduce things like the digital nomad law, or at least I'm optimistic that that is the case. But as we all know, time will tell. Time will tell. Now, I'll start to wrap the video up. I'll see everybody again on Sunday. I'll be back again, 7:35 p.m. Hope to see you all then. Have a fantastic rest of the day. Hasta luego. Hasta entonces. Adios. Bye-bye.